So I'm here with Aaron and Tom from ALVANCE, who are going to talk to us a little bit about their experience in STEM, what it is they do at ALVANCE, and how they've been involved in STEM outreach before. So first of all, guys, could you tell us a bit more about the part of the business where you work?
You go.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Aaron. So here in Fort William, we're an aluminium smelter. My side of the business, the bit that I kind of work on is I'm a civil engineer. As part of kind of the exterior of the company, I don't work too much internally, but I work in the hydro scheme. We have quite a bit of infrastructure here which helps power generators here in Le Caber, which then help produce the energy required to make aluminium here on site. Tom's a bit more involved in the site side of things, but together we are here kind of to help and facilitate the production of aluminium.
Exciting. And Tom, do you want to add anything to that, or?
Yeah, I'm a project engineer here, so most of my work is based on site. So anything to do with supporting the actual production of aluminium is kind of what I'm responsible for.
Sounds good. And what's your current role, and how long have you been with the company then?
I'm a project engineer and I've been with the business 7 years now. Good amount of time.
And I'm a civil engineer, and I've been here just for about 18 months, just over a year. So my role kind of involves just ensuring that all of our infrastructure, including some large dams and some smaller ones, some tunnels, water carrying tunnels, aqueducts, culverts, etc., all are within regulatory and statutory requirements, all adhering to legal guidance, and making sure that we are always in a position to have an abundance of water to make sure that we can always consistently produce aluminium.
Okay, so a good range of experience then. So did you do any further study, or did you join the company straight off from school?
I joined the company straight from school and done a 4-year apprenticeship in mechanical engineering. At the end of, during that, towards the end, I'd done a HNC in mechanical electrical engineering, then done a bridging year, was on the tools for 2 years, which is what I would call like actual practical work after I completed my apprenticeship. And then for the last sort of 2 years, I've been doing a degree in mechanical electrical engineering. Last year I moved into the project engineering role, and this year I just completed my degree, so I'm getting there.
And my route slightly differently. I finished school and went straight to university and done a master's degree in civil engineering. That took 5 years to complete in Scotland, and then upon completing my degree, my first full-time job was this one, and that started, like I said, about 18 months ago. So yeah, slightly different routes, Tom and I, but ultimately got to the same place where we are now, but in just slightly different roles.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear about the different pathways that you've come down. What subject options or choices did you take in school? Were they similar or different? Or
yeah, we discussed this earlier on actually, and pretty much we done exactly the same subjects in school. So we both done English, maths, physics, PE.
I done product design,
and I done graphic communication. So 2 very similar subjects, but on a whole, we pretty much done exactly the same in school.
But it's worth pointing out, like you said, there's no right or wrong way to any kind of any pathway can be different, and you might end up at the same place. Like I said, like Tom and I had different pathways to get to our jobs. Although we had different similar subjects in school, you might choose something and then decide later on you want to do something else. Quite a lot of people and friends and colleagues might have not chosen those subjects, but ultimately that's the position they ended up taking.
yeah. Just out of interest, were there any subjects that you feel were really useful then going into your career that you were definitely glad that you took?
Maths and physics.
Yeah, for engineers, yeah, especially civil, mechanical, electrical engineers, I think maths and physics are kind of makes sense that you'd be interested in that, and they're going to play a big part in your job overall. I think another one that's important is probably English. We talked a little bit before about how communicating is a big part of our jobs, and being able to communicate ideas, concepts, and even just having conversations with people is massively important. But in any of the STEM professions, any technology classes or science classes, including chemistry and biology or IT, or all of those are always going to be helpful.
You've talked about this a wee bit, but I'd be interested to know sort of on a typical day what your working day is like.
Yeah, so for me, kind of first thing in the morning is come into the office, kind of get the crack with the team, catch up, make sure everybody's on the same page for what's happening on a day-to-day basis. Log into my computer and stuff like that. If there's anything I need to organise for that day, and then it might involve going out to site, having a look at some of the bits of our infrastructure. Our remit is kind of like a 30-mile radius in kind of any direction, so might involve going to site and checking up on some work or organising future works, or maybe doing work in the computer in the office. It could be some technical engineering work. But anywhere between working in the office on the computer and out on site managing or organising jobs.
So it sounds like there's quite a variation of different things that you could be doing on any one day.
Yeah, I think it's probably similar for you. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm normally the first one in the office, so I've got no one to get a crack with. Normally I come in and depending on what's on that day, it could be in from designing piece of equipment to managing contractors, looking after installations of electrical equipment, mechanical equipment, reviewing weld procedures, loads and loads and loads of different things to be done. Writing out like different like work procedures, and there's a massive side of health and safety that we have to deal with, making sure everyone's kind of capable of what they're doing.
So would you say that there's anything that really inspired you to kind of take up the role that you had now, whether it was a person or something you experienced when you were at school?
I wouldn't say there was anyone individual that inspired me to do it. It's just we did speak about this, that just having an interest in engineering is kind of what has led us to do this role. Like roles.
Yeah, for me, my older brother, he was studying engineering at university when I was kind of making my choices and subject choices in school, and I think that probably did have a bit of an impact on what I decided to choose going forward. But ultimately, subject choices were just basically down to what I was interested in. I was interested in engineering, and it like touched upon having done PE. I was very interested in sports, and they kind of merged together, and that's kind of how I decided to go down that route.
That's interesting. And what would you say are sort of the key skills that you need for your current role?
Hard work.
Yeah, I think one of the key roles in any probably role nowadays, if you're working within a team, is communication. You have to be able to respect each other and be kind to each other, be nice to each other, but also being able to communicate ideas and concepts and make sure that everybody working on that job or working on jobs moving forward is all on the same page, and everybody's kind of singing from the same hymn book type thing. Probably another one is being organised. Yeah, if you're organised and you know what's happening and when it's happening and how it's supposed to happen, that's kind of half the battle. If you can get organised for work and job, and be in a position yourself where if there's any questions that you've already answered them before somebody can ask you that question, then you're definitely going in the right direction.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear that there's so many skills coming out there that, you know, whether young people are interested in going into a STEM career or any other career, those are all skills that are going to be essential to you in the world of work, really.
Yeah.
Something that's has been quite different and that I didn't realise in this role is because we do quite a lot of organisation of different companies. There's companies that specialise in certain pieces of equipment or whatever, so you don't actually have to have all the answers. As long as you know someone that does know the answers, you're kind of all right. Like,
yeah. What would you say is maybe the hardest or the most challenging part of your role?
Probably people management. Engineering's relatively easy compared to having to deal with people. But the whole health and safety aspect is held in such high regard that it needs to be 100%. And and making sure people are aware of that can be quite difficult sometimes.
Yeah, and we work in quite a big organization here, so there's constantly works going on around about where you're working usually. So managing the people, managing the workspace and the environment, making sure that the health and safety is absolutely priority, and making sure that nobody could possibly become a danger or be endangered. It can become challenging sometimes, and there's so many activities and managing and planning. But like Tom says, the technical side of things usually fall into place if you know the right people and you've got the expertise yourself. So the people management and making sure that you can handle and manage the risks of each job are paramount too.
And kind of on the flip side of that as well, what would you say is your favourite thing about your role?
I would say for me, my favourite part of the role is being able to work in the office, doing a lot of technical work in the office, and getting some experience at management and dealing with other different people from different companies and countries and from all over. But also being able to go out on site and kind of drive a pickup about all into the hills and the Highlands here in Scotland is quite fun too. So being able to work in and out of the office is something that I really enjoy.
I quite like the fact that there's a high amount of job satisfaction, because 99 days out of 100, what you started with at the start of the day, you've got something, you've created something or designed something, or something's been achieved throughout that day that's we've managed to get.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've mentioned this a wee bit already, but have you continued sort of studying and learning after joining the company? Have there been opportunities to do that?
Yeah, for me, yeah, I am currently working towards becoming a chartered engineer. So that involves some continual professional development, or CPD. So that involves various attributes that you need to gain throughout, whether it's technical, showing your technical capabilities and proving it, or management of contractors or people, or making sure that the health and safety, like we've already talked about, is absolutely perfect. So there's various aspects that you need to work towards. But yeah, ALVANCE have been really good to us. They're supporting me certainly through that. That process can take anywhere between kind of 5 and 10 years. So the process is underway, and that's what we're working towards for the next few years, I think.
Something that's quite interesting on the side of training is like we've been like quite a lot of people just think it's the core kind of degree that really improves you, but like for example, me and Aaron have done an off-road driving course that permits us to be able to drive around the hydro scheme when we need to. So it's, there's a lot of different aspects of training that you might not think of that are vital to the roles that we do now.
And that's a good point that Tom's touched on. A lot of the things that we have done are just basic communication training. So how to have a difficult conversation with somebody, or maybe break some bad news, or tell somebody that you maybe don't agree with them. How to do that in a professional and kind of respectful manner is training that we've kind of always continually going through. But it's really important, obviously.
Yeah, it's good to hear that as well. That I think for young people, sitting watching this, they might think you go on a certain pathway to get into a career and then that's you sorted, but actually you're continually learning and picking up new skills. And that's why it's really important to do something that you really care about and you have a passion for. What would you say are your career aspirations for the next 5 years?
Well, I kind of already touched on that. I'm working towards becoming a chartered engineer, and so that's kind of my goal for the next wee while. I'll be working towards that, and hopefully working on a few bigger projects too, getting a bit more responsibility, and working on some interesting things, and like Tom says, getting some satisfaction from seeing a project right from the start all the way through to the end. Something I'll be hopefully doing in the near future.
Yeah, I'm also working towards becoming a chartered engineer, and part of the chartering process is that you are responsible for people. So like that you have to have these difficult conversations, and you pretty much have to prove that you've done so to become chartered. So right now I deal with a lot of contractor management, but you're not really directly responsible for them. So over the next 5 years, it would be good to be directly responsible for employees of the business.
Yeah, I think that's something that comes out throughout everything you're saying as well, that, you know, aside from the STEM skills, the engineering skills, there's so many different people skills that are involved in any role, but especially in the kind of job that you guys are doing. Knowing what you do now, having had a bit of experience in the workplace, if young people are watching this video thinking, oh, you know, I'd quite like to maybe study engineering or have a career in STEM, but I'm not totally sure if I'm set on it or not. Is there any one piece of advice that you'd give to them?
Well, what I tend to find is after you've done your school day or your part-time job or whatever, when you go home, what you do, and like depending on what you're interested in, that's kind of like if you go home and you're interested in engineering and you go take something apart or watch YouTube or whatever to do related to things to engineering, then go for it.
Yeah, I would agree with Tom. Yeah, go with what if you're struggling with maybe what subject choices to make or what career you think you want to have. Like we've already talked about, there's so many different pathways. So just do something that interests you. If it's physics and maths or chemistry and biology or anything, if that's what interests you in school, that's probably worth exploring a wee bit further. Even if it's not the right decision down the road, it's easy enough to change. So go with what interests you, and if you're ever wanting to be, I guess, successful in that, like we've talked about already too, is making sure you're organised and worked hard towards achieving what you want to achieve. Maybe set some goals and stuff like that, and see if you can work towards them.
Yeah, I think it's really encouraging to hear you talk about that, in the sense that, you know, on top of developing your STEM skills and all the kind of hard work and learning that you've got to do behind the scenes, a lot of the things you're talking about are not things that you need to have any kind of, you don't need to have an inherent talent or knowledge to be able to work hard, to be able to be dedicated, and to think about what you're going to do in your future. Those are all things that you can do at any level of ability. So yeah, I hope that's a really encouraging message for any young people watching. Thank you very much, guys. That was really useful. Thanks for your time. And yeah, hopefully that was useful to some young people watching this.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yeah, cheers.